Welcome everybody to another episode of Nature's Wellness Symphony. My name's Tammy from Lines Arise, and I have Denise with me today from Fonta Skin Foods. I'm not going to do a long introduction. You can go and watch the first 3 parts to get the introduction. But we're just here today to speak about wellness, to speak about healing, and to speak about the natural ways that God has given us to heal our bodies. And in the end of the day, our bodies need to be well so that we can function in our calling and our destiny. Because if our bodies aren't well, if our souls aren't well, our spirits also struggle. So sometimes we have a bit of a paradox, because we need our spirit to be in charge, for the soul and the body to come into that correct order. But sometimes our spirits are weak because we haven't nurtured them, but then also our body and our soul is not in a good space. So then our spirit suffers. So it's a bit of a paradox. So what I say is that nurture your spirit above all else. If there's a weakness in that area, first recognize that you have a human spirit that needs to be nurtured and taken care of, because all those spiritual resources, everything that God's made available to us in heavenly places, we access through our spirit. And your soul and your body is in desperate need of that. And so we see in the word in Peter, it says that Jesus is the true shepherd and he is the overseer of our souls. So he's the one we go to for that, right? But he takes care of our souls. So whatever issues we're suffering with in our souls, that will also consequently affect our bodies and then affect our spirit, we know that we can go to him. But so we have all these awesome resources available to us. And I think if we can just start to view ourselves from that holistic perspective, I think we'll walk in a lot better health, you know. And so today we're going to talk about the digestive system. And I think this is an area that maybe not only 1 or 2 people struggle with. I think in our day and age where our foods aren't pure and they've had all sorts of things added to them, and we have a lot of stress and tension because of what's happening in our daily lives, it plays a huge, huge role on our digestive system. And then consequently, our emotional state because of the gut-brain axis. So it's our gut health is essentially important for our mental health and just our overall well-being. So I think this is a very, very important topic for us to discuss today. So Denise, having said all that, I'm going to give over to you, and you can start us off.
Okay, so just quickly on the introduction side. So Fonta's Wellness is now officially established, and there's a website that you can find all the Fonta's organic skin food and natural products. So that is 99% finalized. But I also just want to mention to everyone that part of my studies is to be an essential oils coach, and that certification is underwritten by the American Association of Drugless Practitioners. So there's always a different way to the mainstream way. And we are, as Tammy said, here to talk about wellness, and we are not medical doctors. So please understand that what we say you need to research. This is not medical advice. This is not meant to treat disease. It's just conversations that we feel that we need to have. And many people have questions and they are not finding solutions to their questions. And I think that we just shine the light on a few things. So I've made comprehensive notes today, so you're going to please excuse me as I read, because I may not remember everything that I want to say today. Because the gut, I believe, is such a massive organ and a root cause of many problems. Hippocrates, which they accredit to be the father of modern medicine, he said all disease begins in the gut. And I think that's very interesting. And I have my own journey with my gut and sorting out years of abuse with how we lived, our thinking patterns and all of that. So I'm just going to do a bit of a deep dive onto what exactly the gut is all about, which parts of the body is involved with the digestive system. So what happens is we eat something, because we eat food for fuel. And fuel, think of petrol. You put petrol in your car so that it can do the things that you want it to do, to go places. Now, that's the same thing with food. It's the fuel that our body needs to do its activities. When we bite and we start chewing, saliva secreted that mixes with the food. Then the breakdown begins of the food into units called nutrients, and the nutrients are absorbed in the gut. So there are certain parts that are part of our digestive tract, which is the mouth. So the mouth, as I just said, it breaks down food into size that the body can use. Then you have the spleen. Now, we mentioned the other day, because this talked about the lymphatic system. So the spleen is part of that system. And we mentioned that it protects and filters. Then the stomach, that's the place where the food is held. It's mixed, it's grounded, it contains enzymes and acids. Then we have the liver. The liver produces and it releases bile, and it cleanses and it purifies blood that comes from the small intestine. The gallbladder stores and recycles bile from the small intestine for future use. The pancreas secretes enzymes into the intestines, and that's the final part of the chemical process. And then insulin is made by the pancreas to manage sugar production. And then we have the small intestine, which digestion and nutrient absorption happens there. It transforms the acidic environment into alkaline one. And by the time food leaves the small intestines, 90% of the nutrients has been extracted. And then the rest goes into the colon. And the colon absorbs the leftover water, fat-soluble vitamins, and minerals. So the gut is also known as the second brain, because it has many nerves in it. You know that feeling that you get? I have butterflies, or that nervous tension that you feel in your gut. That is because there are many nerves in the gut. And 70% of the immune system is run by the gut. Now, conditions that we can have when things go wrong in the gut are things like acid reflux, bloating, candida, colic. And for interest's sake, gluten and dairy can be transferred through the milk to a baby. Constipation, dental health, diarrhea, gingivitis, heartburn, irritable bowel syndrome, leaky gut, nausea, and ulcers. So that is what that whole system comprises, or what it's all about. And the reason why I mentioned some details, if you think about the mouth, a lot of us, we are used to drinking a capsule. So we drink the capsule because we don't want to taste that bitter, whatever it is that we are ingesting. But sometimes something like a frankincense powder, the moment you put it in your mouth, saliva is released, certain things are being activated, and you want that activated in your mouth already. You don't want to wait for that capsule to dissolve and the digestion only starts in your gut. So there's a lot of benefit for something that passes through your mouth, meaning you chew it. There's the whole saliva process.
So would it be then fair to say if your gut's not in good health, you can swallow that capsule, but it might not be as effective because the environment that it's going into might not be great? So would it be better then to be absorbed in the mouth, because then it's kind of going to go where it needs to without all the interference going on in the gut?
It's going to end up in the gut in any case, but there's an activation part in the mouth that happens. A bad gut is a bad gut. And we will talk about the problems. But this is part of being healthy is let's look at bitter stuff like olives. You eat an olive before a meal. It's what is it? An aperitif? Is that olives first. That's why you eat maybe a salad first. The snacks that you eat that are bitter in nature before the main meal. Those bitter foods get the bile going. It's because you started chewing it, it sends a signal and bile starts to be activated or released. And you want bile to be released because that helps with the digestion of your food. You don't want, so if you eat too many sweet things before a meal, you affect the bile that's been secreted. So we interfere with our own system. And a myrrh and a frankincense, which is good for the gut environment, it's good if it starts in the mouth, but we don't want to do it because it tastes bitter, or we don't like that feeling of it's like grond, like dust in a sense. It's a strange sensation in your mouth, so we don't like it and we want to try and bypass that. But it's not always the best decision to do that. I'm not saying taking capsules is not a good thing. I'm saying there is a benefit of having to chew something or having something in your mouth and then only swallowing it. If that kind of clears it. So we have many problems when it comes to the gut. Let's talk about leaky gut. That is the buzzword that I think most people have heard. It's part of you mentioned the gut brain, but there's a gut brain skin axis because what happens on the skin is a reflection of what's going on in the body as well. So if we look at leaky gut, inside your gut there's a net. In the digestive system. Think about it as that. And then when it gets damaged, the holes that it has becomes bigger. And bad bacteria will go through there and into your blood. Gluten, proteins, undigested food will go through that system. That is not good for you because if you think of gluten proteins, it can cause systemic inflammation that is linked to thyroid issues, joint issues, and even adrenal fatigue. And to backtrack a bit on the gluten, I think it's I don't know which World War, first or second. I think it's second. Let's say second. Just, if it's not the right one, then it's one of the two. There was a food shortage in the UK. And in order for them to get the wheat to grow faster, they genetically modified that wheat so that they can have food on the tables at a faster rate. But that has had a negative influence on the wheat, and we still pay the price today for that decision that was made in an emergency. That's mainly why I think we struggle with gluten issues, because we have taken what was perfect in its design in a sense, and we've genetically modified it. And there will be debates for and there will be debates against, but this is just one of the consequences of what happened in an emergency situation to food. Then in many cases, leaky gut, and it's not all cases, is linked to autism and depression. Now, if you think about it, serotonin is made in the gut, a lot of the serotonin, and then it gets transported to the brain, or the brain uses it all. But it's made in the gut. So if your gut environment is not healthy, it will influence something like depression. Then if we look at parasites, and we just had an interesting conversation about parasites, I don't think there's any of us that do not have parasites. It comes in through the air we breathe, the food we eat. I think you'll shed some more light on where we get it. There are many ways of being exposed to parasites. And parasites are very intelligent beings. Who knew? Because they will communicate to the brain and tell the brain what they need, and you think it's your own thoughts. And they use the vagus nerve, which is the IT highway of the body, to send the information. They will give you they have certain cravings, so they want you to have sugar, or there are certain emotional states that they have, and they will communicate those states to your brain and you'll start feeling worse. And I think maybe would you mind shedding some light on that specific study of the one that's found in the brain?
Yeah, there was a study done on the effect of parasites on mental health, and there was a particular one. Let me just find it here in my notes. So there's a hypothesis known as the parasite stress theory, where there's a potential link. Obviously, they're still doing investigations into this, but if you go online, you'll find numerous articles and references to the fact that parasites can actually affect human behavior. So, and including suicide. So this particular one is called Toxoplasma gondii. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, which can infect the brain and then cause behavioral problems. And they've actually linked this infection with this parasite, because it affects the neurotransmitters, to people that have committed suicide. And it's also a parasite that will have an effect on people with schizophrenia and bipolar, where it can actually cause it. So they've done studies where there's been a prevalence of that. So people that have been infected with this parasite are 4 times more likely to develop bipolar. So it's just very interesting how we've got these things in our bodies. And this particular one comes through undercooked meat, unwashed vegetables, and then in particular cat litter. So if you're handling cat litter, make sure that you wash your hands afterwards, because this is also where the parasite comes from, especially if a cat's been infected with it in their gut. So I think, yeah, to have a look at parasites and what havoc they can actually wreak in our body is something that's important, and to, yeah, really deal with those things. And who would have thought, that these, we were talking earlier, they're an intelligent creature that's moving around in our bodies. And I wonder sometimes how often the enemy manipulates these parasites in our bodies to actually affect us, cause sickness and disease and that sort of thing in our body. I mean, that's just my hypothetical, but if you think about that, that they can, because there's an intelligence, they can be communicated with, and they communicate with each other, right? Just look at T cells in the body as well. They communicate with each other when there's a job that needs to be done. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, no, it is actually quite interesting. And if you think about, I think, like, if you're 80 years old, that I'm talking about that age group, in their times, they would do parasite cleanses and the change of a season. So between winter and spring and summer and what's it called? What's that word now? I just can't remember. Can't think of
summer
the word
and
in English.
Summer and spring and winter and autumn.
That's autumn and winter. They would do a parasite cleanse, and they would use turpentine. Don't know if the turpentine that they use in those days are the same as the turpentine today, but that's where the saying comes from. A little bit of sugar makes the medicine go down, because they would have that turpentine on the sugar, or with sugar, just so that they can get it down. But they did parasite cleanses twice a year at least, and I don't think it's something that we really do today. If you have children, you most likely are doing deworming protocols, but you may not be thinking of doing parasites. And they are sneaky. The moment you start treating them, they will flee to other parts in your body to try and hide from you. So it's a process to get them out of the body. And when they get into your brain, and they can affect things like, Alzheimer's. I'm saying that because a friend had her mother's body tested, and they found in her brain a lot of parasites. So she's busy helping her mom, and we've noticed that where she was just lying in the bed and couldn't do much, she's now starting to color in and reading a magazine, which is activities that she didn't do before. So we just found it very interesting that her blood was full of parasites, and she has dementia, Alzheimer's, and all of that. And
So doing a sort of a treatment plan to specifically deal with those parasites are a possible way to then improve that mental health or that condition.
Yes, we've just witnessed it with her, but there's a lot of research with regards to parasites and how they affect our body. So it is a good idea to deal with that. And it's one of the things in the body that keeps the immune system very busy, other than chronic inflammation. So if you take parasites and you add to it bad bacteria that gets in, fungus is also a good thing to look at regularly. Worms, if you're not on that system, add a virus, then the boat sinks. So if you get the base clean, it's just overload. The virus is just that last thing on the system, which is an overload. So dealing with parasites, I think it's quite an important part of keeping your gut clean. And then there's the whole thing with the microbiome. Now, very interesting about microbiome, if you have a normal birth, in other words, you move through the birth canal, I think we've spoken about it. If not, then it means I've had many other conversations about this recently. If you move through the birth canal, there is a spray. They call it the microbiome dip. It's a transgenerational immune system dip that you get when you move through the birth canal. And that is part of your immune system. It's part of what gets washed off of a newborn baby that keeps you strong. Now, if you think about antibiotics, in years past, my doctor would give me antibiotics and Proflora, something like that. And you have to drink the two together because antibiotics kills the baddies, good and bad, in the gut, the bacteria and stuff. On that, the good and the bad. So it can wreak havoc in your digestive tract. And I've listened to many of doctors talking on these symposiums that I would attend, where some antibiotics would kill microbiome in the gut and you'll never see them again. So we give children antibiotics because they don't feel well. But I think what we don't realize, or what was not known maybe before, is that antibiotics can kill microbiome in the gut. And some of that microbiome, if it is killed at an early stage, you will never see them again in the system. And I think that is quite sad because we don't understand our bodies and how they work. And as I mentioned before, that's why our doctors, I suppose, gave us a probiotic to drink with our antibiotics, maybe something like that. So microbiome is really important, to have a healthy gut microbiome in your gut. I don't know if you want to add something to that microbiome conversation.
Yeah, I've just got like a few functions of the microbiome in the gut that is really important. So if we look at the digestion and nutrient absorption, the gut microbiome helps to break this down. And the certain dietary components like the fiber, the human body can't digest on its own. So it needs those microbiomes. And so these organisms, they actually ferment the fiber into short chain fatty acids, so which then can be absorbed and used by the body. And then we also look at how, you spoke about the immune system, how important that is, because this helps to regulate the immune system responses and then protect us against the pathogens. And then we look at the influence on metabolic functions. It influences the metabolic processes, how our body stores and uses energy. An imbalanced microbiome is often also associated with metabolic disorders like diabetes 2. And we know often diabetes 2 is a lifestyle disease. It's based on not having a good diet. And then we spoke also on the mental health, the gut-brain axis, where that's also linked to brain function, depression, anxiety, that sort of thing. And then also, if we've got healthy microbiome, this can help the overgrowth of harmful bacteria, inflammation regulation, imbalances are then obviously associated with inflammatory conditions, and then just in overall the digestive health. So they're actually super, super important for our body. So it would warrant taking care of them and making sure that we're doing what we need to create sort of a healthy, what they call community for them to thrive in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, definitely. And then we can add things to the system like plastics and pesticides. And pesticides have been known to sit behind some of the reasons why people struggle with thyroid issues. And thyroid issues can deplete your vitamin B in your body. And things like Hashimoto's has been linked to the root cause is the gut for that to be, for people to struggle with that. I do want to mention a study that was done, and this may be a shocker if you've never heard this before. But the Nutrition Institute in America funded an independent interview in 2006 of government-approved medicine. It was published, as I said, 2006, and it was titled Death by Medicine. And they have found that the leading cause of death in America is not cancer, it's not heart disease, but it is conventional medicine. That is
very interesting.
If you take the picture that I want to leave you with is, if you take 6 jumbo jets falling out of the sky every day for the next 10 years, that is how many people that they say from the study dies because of conventional medicine.
It's quite a significant impact.
It is, and they say, but why? It's because it's not treating the root cause.
Yeah, just putting a plaster on it, eh? And feeding,
Yes.
and probably feeding what's going on there at the same time.
Most likely, or causing secondary kind of issues. Yeah. So there are solutions, not only to problems, there are solutions for all of these things. Bone broth being one of them. It lines the gut. So bone broth we used to get in when we make soups from, take the bones and cook the bones in the soup. That's the basis of your soup. That would be a bone broth. Today there are various other forms of getting bone broth in, but that was something that we don't do anymore. So I think that's why we start seeing more things than we used to in the past. Eating real food, and frankenfood is not real food. I listened to a talk over the weekend, and the guy said they did a study just with a group of kids, and they asked them to write on the board, what do you eat every day? What do you eat on a daily basis? And they made a list, and there were 200 items, and they gave the one child a pen, and he said, please encircle in green everything you consider food. And they could see the child was a bit confused. What do you mean? And he said, what on this list is food? And he kind of was confused again. Then he explained to them what food is and what food is not. And out of the 200, only 7 items that these children ate every day was food. Yeah. The rest is just rubbish or frankenfood. And our bodies need food because that is the fuel. We need to eat foods that improve circulation in the body. That's water, or water that comes from fruit and vegetables. That is a structured type water. And I think many people have heard about structured water. So fruit and veggies offer structured water to your body. Healthy fats, pre and probiotics. Probiotics, a good probiotic. I'm busy testing one out that hopefully will be seen as part of the Sozo Fantas range in the future. And I do believe I see for the first time, after using many different types of probiotics, a difference. My nails are stronger, my hair is stronger. I feel better. And I'm on my first container of this stuff. So I'm looking forward to maybe adding that in the future. But definitely a good probiotic. Prebiotics are also good. Baobab fruit powder is a prebiotic. Gherkins, sauerkrauts, those type of things that we don't want to eat. They are kind of what we need, and it's basically a teaspoon of that stuff every day that you need for your body. Then herbs, whether it's an essential oil or actual herbs. Fennel is good for that digestive tract. Coriander, it helps with bloating. Oregano capsules, good for dealing with parasites, and hopefully that, not parasites specifically, fungus. It's good for fungus, and hopefully that is something that we'll be launching soon in Sozo as well, or oregano caps. But it's not something you would drink every day. It's just 2 weeks, and then you need to take a break for your liver. Ginger is good for leaking gut, whether you get it in essential oil form applied to your body, or you get it in through a tea or in your food. It's herbs that are really good for your gut. Vitamin C, again, is one of those things that's good for gut health. I mentioned frankincense the other day, is also good for gut health. And then dealing with emotions. Emotions is very important when it comes to gut health. I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, so just my usual add-on is, how does trauma affect our gut? Again, we look at the gut-brain axis, how that's all connected, the central nervous system and the enteric nervous system of the gut. That's that connection. And then we also look at emotional processing. So what you spoke about earlier, about the gut feelings and the butterflies in the stomach, these are actually emotional states that are being processed in your gut. And trauma can actually disrupt that connection, so it can also interfere with even the way that we regulate our emotions. And then as we spoke about, having that healthy community, microbial community, also helps for our brain function and our behavior, in terms of mental health issues. We look at the vagus system, right? The vagus nerve, which is a very important aspect of the parasympathetic nervous system that connects the brain and the gut. And it regulates various systems and functions as well. So the digestion is very important as well. And then stimulating the vagus nerve can also help in managing the effects of trauma. So our body's so amazing. Like whenever I do these little studies, you just realize how God designed us to intricately work together in every aspect of our body. So even looking at resilience, where some people are more resilient to trauma than others. So they've done some studies and they've shown that good strains of bacteria can promote resilience to stress and trauma. And I guess that's also linked to the gut microbiome. That's linked to the gut-brain connection, is that we can process our emotions within our gut. So I just thought that was awesome. So if you think about the baby that comes through the birth canal and receives that dose versus the baby that doesn't, which baby is gonna, maybe if you had to do a study, you'd maybe find that cesarean babies were not as resilient as babies that have come through the birth canal, because they missed that process, And I mean, I know with me, my daughter was an emergency cesarean, and she had colic and, struggled with anxiety and all sorts of stuff like that. And you just wonder, those kind of effects, does it create the vulnerability versus the resilience, So I think that's an important thing to take into account as well. And then something interesting that they're doing now is called psychobiotics, which are probiotics that have a positive influence on your mental health. versus a psychotic drug. They use psychobiotics now, and they are specifically designed to impact that gut-brain connection. And so a lot of promise has been shown in trauma-related studies by using this. And then obviously looking at our diet, how that can heal our guts as well and help us with trauma, because it all has the systemic effect. Our nutrition, as you mentioned as well, and then also paying attention to what are we taking for us in specific, looking at supplements, and that is actually personalizing our prescription. What do I need versus the next person in terms of a supplement for me to help with my areas of struggle, because these are general issues, but some supplements don't work for others. Like, for example, spirulina is a really awesome superfood, but it's not good for somebody that's got an autoimmune disease, and so we need to also, when we look at taking supplements and that sort of thing, we need to have a look at, what is it you want to correct in your body, and use the right superfood or the right supplement, because some of these are actually counterproductive depending on what you're taking and for what you're taking it. So that's also an interesting aspect to take into account on your own journey, to healing.
Yes. Is there a lot of noise coming through from my side?
Very slightly.
Okay, so as long as it's not interfering, because there's a machine that started outside.
No.
I just want to add to the whole microbiome thing. They have found that even in people that are obese versus people that are lean, there's certain microbiome that's found in the bodies of the person that is lean, which is not found in the person that is struggling with their weight. And frankincense is one of the nutrients. It's a non-nutritive supplement. It's more one of the herbal things that can help restore that specific microbiome in your gut that leaner people have. So it's very interesting how all of this interacts and plays. And you were talking about emotions. The liver is one of the organs, the gut organs, or the digestive tract or digestive system organs that stores anger. And that is an emotion. That is not it's not the physical action, which is quite interesting. And if we are in a stress state, then cortisol increases in our digestive environment, and that is just purely emotional that can affect that.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking also about, you spoke about the importance of bile as well in that whole process. And if you think of bile is bitter, right? It's quite a bitter substance. So think about bitterness, right? And think about what part of the body might bitterness affect. It's I think it was Hippocrates that also spoke about the 4 systems in the body. It was phlegm, it was bile. I'm trying to go back to my psychology days where we learned about the psychology, and I remember learning about some of his theories, and there were these 4 areas that he said affected us, and I think one of them was bile. I must actually go and have a look and see if I can find some information on that. But it just shows you how interconnected we are with our body and our emotions. So we think about a dysfunction in a particular part of our body, and then so think about the emotions that kind of tie into that bile, bitterness. You've tied anger to the the liver. We've looked at the heart disease as well, how you can tie that into certain emotions as well. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, definitely interesting. And then part of the solutions, and I think on a final note for me, unless you have something specific, is just essential oils as well. So we looked at the herbal side of it, but essential oils, they help to relax. They help you to relax. And that is why Cozy Calm is a new product that it's not on the website yet, but it will be released soon. That is a blend of oils that help you to relax. Whether you get turmeric through your food or whether you get it in a skin application, it's another layer of getting turmeric into your body. So there are various ways and various forms of something. Get the plant version in, get maybe the essential oil version where you breathe it in or where you put it on your skin. That is various ways of applications. The moment, say you eat turmeric, your cell receptor sites are open, and if you use a product with turmeric in on your skin, then you get the benefit of it much quicker. And research has indicated that consistent use of essential oils gives you a stronger resistance to illnesses, colds, and flus. And if they compare people that do not use essential oils as part of their daily life versus those that do, there's a 70% faster recovery from those who do from illnesses, colds, and flus. And I want to give you more insight now that you've heard all of this on Fontis and Sozo. It is a layered approach. Your Fontis products are layered. The cleansers have oils in it that's not really all of them are found in the nectars. The Sozo natural range, if I take the adrenal soothe blend, the roller bottle, it has ginger in it. So the ginger is good for the adrenals, but the ginger is also beneficial for your gut and your skin. It's calming to your emotions. So as you apply it, it calms your emotions. Ginger is known to be infection fighting. And as I mentioned, if you eat the ginger to the roots in your foods or a tea, and you apply your product that's made for something else, it also has another layered benefit for your body. Fontis offers, Sozo Natural offers blends, and the blends contain many oils that if you have to buy them individually or use them individually, it's going to take you forever to do that. Where the blends bring more to the table than just the thing that it says it's going to support with. There's a mosquito blend that I'm working on. It has turmeric in it. And turmeric has amazing benefits. It's good for your gut. So if you eat turmeric, it's good for your gut. It's good for neurological health. It's good for your liver because it's inflammation soothing. It helps with neurostem health. In other words, if you have joint damage and you need nerve tissue stem cell growth, that is what turmeric is good for. And it's nice if you can use it in your food. If I can quote a doctor, his name is Dr. Jafunza Wright, medical doctor in Chicago. He mentions that turmeric supports the central nervous system. It's anti-inflammatory action, has anti-inflammatory actions. It reduces pain. It prevents neurodegeneration, and it reduces amyloid plaque production. Amyloid plaque production is an issue with Alzheimer's patients. I find when they do autopsies of people who had Alzheimer's in their brain and autism, they find amyloid plaque production, too much of that. And they also find, interestingly enough, heavy metals in there, which is quite strange. I don't know what it will do in the brain. So if you apply your Fontis or your Sozo Natural mosquito blend to keep the mosquitoes away, you have the benefit of what turmeric can do for the rest of your body. And that's my thinking in every product that I do, that I bring to the market. It has more than one function. So now you're putting something on your skin that's toxic. You have the benefits of it being functional, but it brings a host of other stuff that you will not individually. It's not possible to have all of those benefits in one go. if you use the various products throughout your day or your week or your month, you get so many benefits that from all of this. And that's just what I want to leave off with. It's not just the simplistic approach that I bring to the table when it comes to Fontis Organic Skin Food or Sozo Natural. It's a multi-layered approach, which I really thought through. As I say, I work with Holy Spirit, and we figure out and see how to put things together to bring many benefits into your home.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, and God does work with people in different ways to bring those solutions that we need to the world. We've got a problem. Yeah, we're here to solve a problem, and God's given us all our unique ability to solve these problems. And I think with a holistic way, and I mean, your products are now awesome. A lot of people are moving away from the medical field and actually going towards natural products because there's just being more and more awareness around this. And once again, disclaimer, I'm not saying leave what you're busy with or taking or whatever, but we're starting to realize the importance of working with our bodies, with even our minds, helping our minds instead of taking an antidepressant to stem the emotions. Instead of facing the emotions and dealing with them, we're starting to do it the proper way, the way we're supposed to do it. And on that note, I want to come back just shortly to Hippocrates, because when I say something, then it lingers in my brain, and I want to come back to what I was talking about. So we know that he was the Greek physician, right? And he was often referred to as the father of medicine. Do we know when you become a doctor, you take the Hippocratic Oath as well? So some of you that don't know who we're talking about. So he had, according to his medicine theory, there were 4 humors that were thought to influence a person's temperament and their health. And I think this was quite forward thinking for a man, in those years. I mean, that's way back. So the first one is the blood, which he combined with the sanguine personality, is what we tie today to the sanguine personality. And he believed that the blood was produced by the liver and was associated with the element of air. Now, also he had a foundational concept in ancient medicine as well. So this is where his elements come in as well. And so a person with an excess of blood was thought to be very cheerful, courageous, and optimistic. So this is kind of how he looked at it. And then he looked at the phlegm, which is the other humor, which is linked to the phlegmatic personality. And because the phlegm is associated with the water element, it was believed to be produced by the brain and the lungs. Very interesting. And so these phlegmatic people were considered to be very calm, unemotional, and perhaps even apathetic type of personality. And then he had the bile. So this is what got me thinking just now. So the one was the black bile, which is linked to a melancholic personality. And this was an earth element that was thought to be produced by the spleen. Okay. And so a person that had an excess of black bile was often prone to sadness, depression, or anger. So that's where we get the melancholic type of personality from. And then the fourth one was the yellow bile, which he associated with a choleric personality. And he associated this with a fire element and said that this was produced by the gallbladder. And so a person with an excess of yellow bile might be described as irritable, hot-tempered, and quick to anger. So I don't know if he actually studied the bodies. I guess I'll have to go and do my research to see if there was an excess of blood or an excess of phlegm or, that kind of thing to actually come to his theory. But it's very interesting to see that, maybe the philosophers and the theorists of old didn't all have it wrong, in the way they thought about things. And just looking at the connections in the mind and the body, right? But he really laid a foundation for where our medicine is today. And then I think just as closing, seeing as I'm giving some interesting facts here that probably mean something or don't mean anything, is to look at the redemptive gifts again, like we speak each session, and how we have the 7 redemptive gifts, and the redemptive gift of teacher has been linked to the digestive system. And so why has it been linked to the digestive system? Because there's a correlation between the functions of the digestive system, which we know is to break down the food into nutrients so it can then be absorbed by the body, etc., as we spoke earlier. So the gift of teacher has a very strong desire to take information and knowledge, much like the digestive system takes food and processes it. And they have a hunger to learn and assimilate knowledge and a natural ability to digest complex ideas and concepts. So I'm a teacher, so I think I identify very well my gifting. I'm not a teacher. My redemptive gift is teacher, although I have been a teacher. And so the digestive system is also associated with the principle of transformation, which is also a key characteristic of the gift of teacher. So just like the digestive system transforms food into nutrients that can be absorbed by the body, the teacher has the ability to take information and transform it into a deeper understanding and wisdom that can be shared with others. So it's very interesting. And then also the digestive system, because it's vulnerable to stress and emotional disturbances, the teacher gift may also often struggle with anxiety and pressure to constantly learn and teach, so when we understand this connection, we can then also have a look at how our gifting can then affect our body, but then also get a greater understanding into our gifts as well if we look at the body's function. So the healthy function of the body in that area, and then the unhealthy or dysfunction of the body in that area. So it's just a little bit of food for thought. But yeah, I always find it very interesting the way Arthur Burke has kind of tied these gifts to the body, and it just makes so much sense,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's quite interesting, actually.
Yeah. So is there anything you want to add, Denise, before we close, or have we covered everything?
Yeah, there are 2 things, and I wanted to mention it on the last conversation. There is a place for medicine and there's a place for natural, the natural things. It's when the medical and the natural, or the herbalists or the natural movement take hands, I think in certain things we will see greater results or different results that we are busy seeing today. So there's place for the one and the other. The one and the other. So what I want to say, and I do believe the Lord wants to bless those in the medical industry when they follow his ways. I think he has a lot that he wants to release in that field. But it means choosing his way, choosing not to harm, and choosing what he wants to bring to the table versus what the world has to offer. So I do believe, because there seems to be a lot of battle of the 2 worlds at the moment. If I do a search on Google or DuckDuckGo, the natural information is disappearing. It's difficult to find it on those platforms, and it's only medical stuff that's being pushed forward. So there's a dark agenda and there's God's agenda in all of this. So for me, this is not the one versus the other. It's God's design, God's agenda, flowing through the one, flowing through the other, and finding that way versus what is going on today. Because we do want to run away from things, a pill for every ill, and that's just causing more problems than solutions, because we don't want to look at the roots.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing is, like with everything, the enemy will counterfeit and the enemy will bring corruption. And I mean, because doctors are also, that's also a gifting that God's given us. I mean, if you break your arm, you're going to need to go see a doctor. What do we do with our doctors? Or you need surgery or something serious. But what the enemy's come, the same as what he's come to do with the natural products, is to always, he comes to bring the corruption in with it. And so it's like you say, I think to pray that God's will be done and that the truth will come into the areas where there is deception, especially in the medical field, where they're doing things we are unaware of that are harmful instead of what was intended for good. So I think that should be a prayer for all of us, because I think all of us see doctors at some point. We have to go for something or the other. And, that is just one of those systems that's around us that we also need to pray into, because it affects us and it has a universal effect. So, it's interesting. We think our role as believers is, just in a certain sphere, but we actually have to look at the systems that impact our lives and realize that we are all responsible to pray into those areas, because they're going to affect our world. So
yes, absolutely. And we don't want to be forced into positions because of fear.
Or because of lack of prayer, where stuff is coming to pass and things are being pushed because nobody has stood up to pray. The believers haven't come together and prayed against those things.
And lack of knowledge is a big problem. The word is clear. Much my children, mine, he says, dies with lack of knowledge. And then there's an extra part which I think is important to read on and understand. But yes, we die because we don't understand the stuff.
And like you were saying with the research that you do as well, on Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever, it's like the research is there for us. And also we mustn't just believe everything that's being given to us through the news or through media, because that's also kind of been corrupted. We need to do our own research into things to have a better understanding. So it's, like they often say in psychology, always stay curious about your body, curious about your emotions, ask questions. So be curious about your environment, be curious about the things that you need to learn more about, and take responsibility for your life and even for your health. Like if you've got issues that you're struggling with, go and do your research. I'm struggling with this. What can I use? What's going to be good for me? What's a natural way to deal with this? What are some of the things I can have a look at? Because a lot of people they're a bit lazy when it comes to stuff like that as well. I think, I don't want to generalize, but all the information is there. Ask the Lord for wisdom and discernment to find what you need for yourself that's going to improve your life in those areas. And always trust the Holy Spirit as well to lead you.
And I want to say about the research. So prior to 2020, as I said, I've spent a lot of time researching, a lot of webinars, a lot of things that has to do with integrative medicine, because it is part of the whole skin thing. Those same people, I have books of names today of certain people in those fields. You will not find those names popping up after 2020 on
a lot changed after that.
They have just disappeared off of the face. They're still there, and you need to know where to find them and how to find them. But it's not just there anymore. It's not simple to get to.
Yeah, because it's all being controlled. But yes.
It's just interesting to note. I just noted the shift in 2020. And it's getting worse. And it's sad because, it's just sad.
Yeah, it's information we need that's being withheld. So that's all part of the end time agenda. But yes, we could talk for long about that, but
we can.
Denise, anyway. Thank you so much. I always enjoy our discussions, and I'm sure the listeners got some important information today, have a few nuggets, and maybe got a few solutions to issues they might be struggling with. And just pray that whatever the Lord wanted to transmit today will be transmitted to them. And so thank you. I look forward to our next talk.
So do I, and thank you again for the opportunity, and thank you to everybody that's taking the time to listen.
Okay, till next time.